CrunchBites back again with my best friend John and me for the win. Look, I'm rapping. No, I'm Chris Holden, but here's our question, and it's actually kind of a multiple question. It initially started from what Jason Ryer said. He said it's 30 too late to get into games, but at the same time, how young is too young to get into games? I'll say there is no age that is too late to get into video games. I don't think there's any real limitation. I think it's really all based around your skill level, kind of what you present as a person. Normally, a lot of younger people are seen as having a higher enthusiasm, so you probably need to present a high level enthusiasm, and don't just be like, whatever. I'm this guy, older, whatever. Just give me the job. Like, yeah, that's very low enthusiasm. That's not an age issue. I think it's important that it doesn't matter what age you are. It's your level of enthusiasm and skill and what you bring to the table. I've seen a lot of guys. I've worked with so many guys that were, they were from back in the old days. So maybe they took it easy and didn't learn the new tech, and kind of fell to the wayside. And that's a huge downfall. You've got games. The tech moves so fast that if you're not on top of the technology, then yeah, you can be an old guy that can't get a job because you're just allowing yourself to be that. But I've also seen a lot of young talent also do the same thing. Like guys that have the same portfolio pieces for years and years and years, and it's just old and crap. And even though the guy might be 19, he's had the same portfolio for 3 years, and he can't get a job and can't explain why. Huh. What do you think about that, John?
I I agree with everything you said. Age is nothing but a number, and so much of that and is mental. I think a lot of the indicators people look for in their seeing age in this context is, like you said, enthusiasm or lack thereof, how current your skills are, and how hard you try to keep up with them, and just I don't know, just your attitude toward games. Because honestly, I think games are a young man's game, so to speak. But it's not impossible for people that have the drive and the motivation and the ability to really go after something and stick to it.
No, that's so true that it's a young man's game, because just because the fact that, if you want to make games, you kind of have to. I don't know. I think you have to be a gamer. You don't really, but that's just how I feel. I just think you have to be into games and enjoy games, just love them. I mean, that's not really true as far as, hiring and firing and blah, 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 but it seems to help so much.
It does. Like I think, like, I get into and out of actually playing games a lot as I get older. But sometimes I'll just get, I'll just be working, or I'll be all about process and stuff. But something that I think kind of helps me keep sharp and keep young and remind myself why I do it is being passionate about games. Whenever I do loop back and I start playing it again, it reminds me why I'm doing what I'm doing, and it reminds me, like, when I'm at my worst, when I'm stressed out, when I'm, like, if I'm crunching or I'm just not enjoying what I'm doing or having a bad day or whatever, I have one phrase that I run through my mind to help get me back on track. What I do is fun. Playing games helps me do that. Learning new things helps me do that. Learning how to use new software, or working like new engines, new tools, new people, new this, new that. All that information, all the trappings of working in games, all the cool things about it. Those things keep me young, keep me excited, and kind of help keep me grounded. It's more about immersing yourself in the culture and finding out why you find it fascinating and why it motivates you. That is about being any particular age.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much this really hits the topic, but
Yeah, that's true.
gaming is so important to youth in that sense that you're just loving it. Like I find some of the best developers I've ever worked with were that which when we worked on a game, they were excited about the game. And there's been in my own situation, I've had so many benefits from the fact that okay, I'm working on whatever game, and I'm playing the game and I'm loving the game. I'm really enjoying it and giving feedback as a gamer, not really a developer, but as a gamer. And there's sometimes you can find yourself giving feedback that no one even thought of. They're like, "Oh, why didn't we think of that? Like why wasn't that put into the game?" And I've had games that I've worked on that were just like majorly changed just from a subtle concept of a gamer. And that doesn't really transcend age. It's just the concept of you need to forget that age is an issue and the fact that you just love games and that can possibly move you forward at the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Just having, I feel like there is potentially, well, I think there is ageism in the game industry to some extent, but yeah, I think just being able to remain that passionate and be open about that is something that can definitely help counteract that. Now, as for starting in games later in life, I'm generally against schools. Some people learn better with them, some people learn better without. But almost all of the should I go to school questions I've ever heard, at least, have come from people that are younger. It's like if you're a teenager in your early 20s and you're thinking going to like art school or something like that, there are positives, there are negatives. But mainly I think it's more of a establishing contacts and getting life experience kind of thing, which I think is just good for people in general. But if you're older and you're going to an art institute or something, absolute waste of time and waste of money. Like a degree in art, it's only in games. It's only as good. You're only as good as you are. A degree is absolutely 100% useless. A degree on its own means nothing. If you're not good at art, then
you got your master's in game art, but your portfolio looks like shit. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, some of these degrees can cost $60, $80, $120, $160,000. You're getting into the school cost range where you could be a fucking doctor instead of having a useless degree. So if you're wanting to get into games a little bit later in life, fuck school. If anything, do like the Gnomon DVDs or even Animation Mentor. It's a shorter program.
Eat 3D.
In what?
Eat 3D.
Actually, I'm not familiar with that.
Eat3D.com. You know about them. Don't play. But yeah, I see what you mean. Like one of the my second or actually 1, 2, 3, my fourth game job. I was so young. I was like 19 there, and most of the guys around me were college graduates that were complaining about paying off their college fees and stuff. And I went for a semester and dropped out because I got a game job. And they were I accepted a bunch of animosity, I would say, because of the fact that I had more experience than them and had no debt.
Yeah, that's something I've dealt with the similar thing. I've known you since before I was even a teenager. And
Yeah, for those that don't know outside of this, like me and John, we've known. Like I met you when I was like 16 modding Quake, and you were like 12 modding Quake. And did I give you your first job or not?
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, and how old were you then? 14, 15?
I was
16?
I was 15. No, I was 16. Almost 17. It was in April 2001. Yeah. So yeah, we've known each other for 17 years. But I've been making game art. We've been making game art that long. We both started out super fucking young. I spent most of my career having to hide my age. I just turned 29 last week. I'm finally actually being open about my age just because people get weirdly resistant to being too young. I can see it being I can see people being resistant to somebody being too old, potentially. But if you're good at what you do and you're cool and you love what you do, I mean, the rest is just details, frankly. But if you're really wanting to like break into it later, just age only matters as much as you let it.
Yeah,
Just
I think it's really just all about the quality of your art, man. Like somebody that's as bad as, like I always say to people, they like uh, when somebody's doing some like portfolio or their content or whatever, and they're disobeying a bunch of stupid rules, and they say, "Oh, but so and so does it like this." I'm like, "Well, that guy that you're comparing yourself to is the best in the fucking industry." It's like when someone has a portfolio like let's say Hazardous John Troy Nickel or like Pure Orbison or like Kevin Johnstone. Some of
yeah,
these top level guys. You can't compare yourself to them because they're the best and you might be the worst. So if you think that you can set up your shit like them, then you're lying to yourself. And it's what it comes down to is their skill. But if you come out, you're like, oh, I'm like a badass concept. You're like really good at drawing, and you're like as good as say Craig Mullins. Then you can disobey some rules. You can get in, but it's
yeah.
all about skill, man.
Oh, it fully is. And I guess I'm trying to think of like a more the essence of the question. If you're just starting to break into games and you're like late 20s, early 30s, that is not too late at all. Honestly, my advice for wanting to get in the games is exactly the same as I would give someone that's a teenager. Just set evenings apart, get on Poly Count, take tutorials, post, network, talk to people, do stuff, and just practice up. Join the challenges, make friends, just
Yeah,
immerse yourself in the culture. Like the means of actually getting in. Yeah, I guess now that I think of it like this, the way you get in to games working as an artist, in my mind, is absolutely identical, whether you're a teenager or whether you're 30, 40, 50, whatever. And you may have to, like if you have a family or like a really demanding job that you're wanting to get out of, time's going to be more of a factor, but ultimately it's about the time you put in, and that is absolutely ageless. So I really don't think there is such a thing as too late. There may be a little bit of ageism if you're older, but yeah, it just comes back to just focus on why you love doing what you do, and just work hard, be cool with that, be cool about it, be good at it, and then just crank away. Don't let your age get in the way of you doing something you want to do. Don't let it psych you out.
yeah. I don't believe age is an issue. As far as skill versus age goes, because there was recently a guy that I was at a company and he was a programmer and he was a little bit older, like in his 40s or so. But I worked with him before and I said, hey, the guy is probably he's good and he does a good job, and they hired him and everything worked out for him and all that. Um, yeah, shit. I had a whole point and I totally forgot it. I think it was
Well,
about the low age. Actually, the low age is there's limitations legally for a lot of places to hire someone who's younger. But apparently, freelance sort of transcends that. Would you say
oh, absolutely.
you can
And
freelance at a younger age? Go ahead.
yeah, I've been technically making money as a contract artist since I was 12, and most people never know. When I got hired at Ready at Dawn, I wasn't even old enough to go to the club where they had their Christmas party. They had no idea how old I was. They had to work with the club management just to be able to get me in, because I think I was 19, and I was hired to make most of the characters for their game, and they had no idea. I mean, it's really all about what you put out. And one quick example that I'd love to give about someone in games is older than many is someone named Ken Rolston. He's been in games forever. He was lead designer at Bethesda Softworks for 12 years on Oblivion and Morrowind. He's lead designer at Big Huge Games, executive design director at Big Huge Games. Now he's a director of design at Turbine Warner Brothers. And he is, I believe, 63 years old. He's been working in games for motherfucking ever. But he is so smart, sharp, funny, cool, talented, well respected, enthusiastic, loves what he does, and everybody just looks at him and respects him. Nobody gives a fuck. I mean, that he's older than a lot of people in games. He's just a total badass. He loves what he does and he works at it, and that's just the way it is. And I think he's a cool example of that. Granted, he's been in for quite a while, but dude's in his 60s and he's still at the top of his game and kicking ass, and people love and respect him. So I think it's a great high-level example of no such thing as too old.
There's no such thing as little. Kevin Johnstone right now today that we're recording this episode, which will be posted much later. Kevin Johnstone just turned 39 years old, and that guy owns polycount posts for his Gears of War dumps,
God, that guy.
which are just sculpts and stuff like that. Yeah, if you're worried about age, man, you should really forget about that and worry about skill. And we should wrap it up right about now. What do you think? Anything else?
I was just going to say, having known Kevin for a very, very long time, he's always acted like he was about 39. Love you, Kevin.
Fair enough. Hey, CrunchBites for Chris Holden. Here's John Jones. Thanks, everybody.